Welcome into the bunker. Today I wanted to just look at the Bitcoin chart. Really hoping that a lot of you guys watch my videos. I know that some of the people who post, they'll do like these super bullish YouTube thumbnails, and there's I guess a chance that people might just not watch the video. Um, but most of those people actually have been bullish. For me, I've stayed bearish, and I have explained that in my videos. So hopefully you guys actually clicked on the video. It's not like I was, proposing to be raging bullish. I was just proposing that there was an alternative option, I guess, to happen. But what I have always maintained is that my base case was that we would remain bearish and that we would touch this 200. I mean, once we broke above this, it was pretty obvious we were going to come up and touch that. We got rejected really hard. And we also got rejected off this very strong trend line that I think not a lot of people have noticed. But we obviously had this high, this shoulder, and then we also had here, and then we touched it again here. So we kind of used it as support here. We tried to make it support here, but it didn't really work out. And then we got rejected, and now we're getting rejected again. So I could make the case that this is actually a series of lower highs here. And we could say that, this was just a blow off top. This was just another blow off top. And, just a mini cycle within a cycle. But in reality, this was only used to get us to this point. So it's almost just like if you just follow these, where does the line touch the most times is what's important. Just like down here for this support, around 30K, we have this diagonal trend line that shows us a little bit more. And this is just a prediction from what I have been looking at, and we can look at it on the weekly as well. I've talked about this. We can even see these trend lines matching up perfectly on the weekly here. And as I've said before in the past, I've talked about recently actually, is this cross that we had here of the 20 weekly SMA and the 50 weekly SMA. And this has not happened in this entire bull run. Okay, so we've been on this path ever since back here when we crossed. We've gone, we've just kind of had this bull run. And again, I've always said, from what I've learned, is you always want to sell when the moving averages are wide like this, and you want to accumulate when they're thin like this. Okay, this is where you want to be accumulating. This is where you want to be selling. And we're still super wide here. So what I think we need to do is we need to consolidate these on the weekly, which is going to take a long time. I do think that eventually, we could have something like this. It might not even happen this early. It really might not, it might not happen until who knows when, or it might happen earlier. But I do think if it happens earlier, we go lower around this 200-day SMA. If it happens a little bit later, we might hit this trend line here that I pointed out on the weekly, where we take the lows from March 2020 and then this support here, and we bring it all the way out and we get around 26K. Because I do think once we drop below 30K, everyone will be freaking out. People think we're going to 20K, and that's kind of when we could get a pickup, and potentially, especially if this moving average moves up by then. Maybe it's at 24 by then, and we hit somewhere around there. That's kind of what I'm looking for here. And I just wanted to also highlight the fact that, again, on the weekly, we have seen this before only a few times, where we have the 20 SMA cross with the 50. We had it here, okay, and then we had a massive dump, okay, and then we had it here, and then we had this dump here. Okay. So really, this is not something you want to see. Even back in the day, we had this as well, right here. Okay. And then we had this dump all the way down to the lows here where we were on the 200 day, 200 week, excuse me. We also had some news that came in. So I just wanted to cover a few things regarding Bitcoin, the economy. We had the EU Parliament passes privacy busting crypto rules despite industry criticism. So actually, this happened, and once it passed, that's actually when we saw the excuse to dump Bitcoin. But I do think that the main reason we dumped was, again, just because we've been on, because we were on the exact moving average right there. We touched that exactly. A lot of people probably had longs and they closed them at that point. And so, of course, everyone got bullish again. I mean, I'm not even on Twitter anymore, but I can just like feel the bullishness. I see some of the videos pop up on my YouTube, people that I still follow, calling for bullish sentiment. And, I in the past, maybe like 4 months, I pride myself on being objective and also being realistic, and also being someone that you can trust to give you the real analysis. Besides, most of these people just have, massive bags, and they're way too overly biased about the situation here. And this is not a time when you want to be 100% allocated to crypto. You might have 10 to 20%. None of what I say is financial advice ever. But what I'm saying is that it's just a time where you want to be diversified, because Bitcoin could be used as like a currency that maybe countries use to get around sanctions. That's possible. It could play out in a way that is good for Bitcoin and good for crypto. That's always a possibility. We have central bank digital currencies coming in. Maybe they back that with Bitcoin. So there's such an asymmetric reward that you don't need to be all in on this. You can have a smaller percentage portfolio, because governments are also totalitarian at this point. So they may actually like really do away with a lot of these. So, some of them could go to zero, and then all of a sudden you have no wealth. So you just have to be careful in this market, especially in the times that we're headed into with this great reset. So in the EU, we have lawmakers who basically outlawed anonymous crypto transactions. And what this is going to do is it's going to really hurt people who are holding Bitcoin on ledgers, on Trezors. Basically anything over $1,000 in euro that will need to be identified, including transactions with unhosted or self-hosted wallets. So anytime that you send more than $1,000 to your Coinbase from your ledger, or from your other way around, it has to be reported. So Coinbase has really pushed back against this. And I would push back against it as well. This is moving towards a totalitarian state where, we have our central bank digital currencies only, and, you will own nothing and be happy type thing, like the great World Economic Forum has told us. So this is kind of the beginning of something similar to that. And so people need to push back against this. I think that the EU and the United States are actually moving more towards being this sort of fascist government. So we just have to really be careful in terms of what we let them get away with. We, the people, are, we're governed by ourselves. We have to remember that. So we can't let these people take away the innovations that we have seen and created over these years. And, like I said, Coinbase has been pushing back against this. And, obviously, Brian Armstrong tweeted about it, and he said like how terrible it is. And then Bitcoin dumped after that. So We also had the 2-year inversion with the 10-year, and this basically a recession has never happened without a yield curve inversion. So it's a possible warning sign that a recession could be on the horizon. A recession is on the horizon. So if anyone is doubting that at this point, you're out of your mind. If you're in tech stocks, if you're in the stock market, you should be getting out on this complacency rally that we're seeing. This was probably one of the easiest decisions to make I think I've ever seen would have been to sell if you hadn't gotten out at the top on the stock market. And we also shouldn't be happy that Bitcoin and Ethereum have gone up with the stock market going up. You don't want to be correlated to the stock market right now. Okay. You want to be correlated to against it. And gold and silver have been correlated against it most of the time. Right now, I guess they're not in this particular day. But most of the time they have been. I think Biden also released his plan to have release the strategic oil or whatever, which again is just, it's strategic oil for a reason. And we're going into situations that are going to put us in a possible World War III. And we have Biden releasing our oil reserves that we need to power our military industrial complex that protects America and protects the dollar. And so this is just another weak move. Another move that will not bring us to long-term sustainability. This is a short-term fix. And it might help for the next couple months during the summer, which obviously we need. But I think demand needed to be destructed, and we didn't do that with this. So now we have like, for example, say I got a job offer, but I had to drive 45 minutes to get there. I may not have taken the job because of how high the gas prices are. And that would have caused demand destruction because I am not demanding that oil, basically. So supply and demand. But now we're increasing supply, but we're just going to increase demand because it's a cheaper price. So people are just going to, buy more oil and be fat and happy. So we kind of needed the demand destruction while we got some of these oil rigs back online. He also is like proposing to give fines to oil refiners that aren't pumping oil. But if they're not pumping oil, that's because it's not profitable for them. So if you're giving them fines, you're just going to make it worse for them. And you're going to make it worse because, again, the price of oil is going to go down now. But, potentially in terms of the short term. I do think we're still in a long-term oil bull market, as well as commodities, as well as gold and silver. It's just going to be, bumps in the road. But that's where I want to have my money would be commodities, energy sector, gold and silver, gold miners, silver miners, cash, obviously storable foods, any items that are going to help you store those foods or help you grow more food. That's kind of what I want to invest in at this point. Tools, prep items, things that you need, definitely. So that's what I'm looking at, but I'm not looking at real estate as something to hedge against inflation. With the interest rates going up, I do believe that we're going to see house prices come down because, again, people borrow on their house as we see refinancing. People are not refinancing at this point, which has, fueled a lot of risk assets and has fueled a lot of people buying multiple homes. So as we see the demand plunge for this, that basically means that we're going to see home prices come down. I think we are at the top. I think that supply and demand has been off But I do think that there are a lot of people retiring, a lot of people who are getting to that age that they may move to, retirement communities, things like that. So I do think within the next 5 to 10 years, um, probably sooner than that, we will see the real estate market plunge. And that's when I'm going to come in with my gold and silver, potentially, hopefully. And, if we keep seeing food inflation, I think that that will result in more gold and silver purchasing and inflation and, inflation of real goods. And so I do plan on, purchasing possibly another home, um, possibly something that gives me more space, maybe more rural community, that gives me more opportunity to farm. And so that's what I'm looking at in terms of the economy. Bitcoin again dumping here. It's looking really, really bad. But again, this is where we could come back to if we were going to. We would definitely want to hold this range here, which I think we will. Like I have here, we're going to hold it. We're going to rally back up to that trend line, and then we're going to start to see a little bit of issue. And this could even happen sooner because we are looking at a deeper quad 4. So this could actually just dump straight down like this. But I think that's the trend line to watch, around that 26K region, 24 to 26K by, May, something like that. This is going to just bounce around, fake people out. It'll fake you out one more time. And then it'll start to go. So I think, we'll probably consolidate around these levels like 42 to 43. So watch out for that. As we can see, a lot of the moving averages are consolidating right around there. If we look at as well, like the next moving average on the weekly is around 35K. That's not something, I think if we got back down to that level, we're definitely going down to this sort of area, 20K to 24K to 26K. I know I didn't really cover Ethereum, but we also touched on Ethereum. We touched the moving averages as well. So again, that was pretty obvious to see. I don't really understand like how people keep like getting faked out. I think in this market, we touched that exactly. We got rejected. You never want to get rejected off the 200. It only happens in bear markets again. So I do believe we're in a bear market with Bitcoin and with Ethereum. Again, we could come back and test these levels around 3,000 for sure. And then we could consolidate. But I think ultimately, if we look at where the weekly moving average is, we are around 1,000. And I do think, again, that's where we're headed in the long run. We're very wide here, very wide, even wider than Bitcoin. As we can see, this is where you want to accumulate when we're skinny with the moving averages. This is where you want to sell. And again, getting rejected off of this level. Again, this is where that happened last time. If we look, and then we completely dumped through. And this is probably one of the worst weekly candles I've ever seen. This is a gravestone doji to the max. And so we are headed much lower. I do think, again, we'll get support in here. We'll sort of consolidate still, and we'll just get a little bit weaker and weaker, and we'll like flatten out, and then we'll drop. So hopefully you guys got something out of the video. If you did, please subscribe, and have a great day.